I, 32M, have been married to my wife Sarah, 30F, for 5 years now. The situation I'm about to describe has completely torn my family apart and I need some outside perspective. My sister Amy, 35F, has accused my wife of deliberately poisoning our mother Linda, 65F, who has been living with us for the past 8 months due to her declining health. I need to provide some background first to help everyone understand the dynamics at play here. Our mother was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune condition last year that severely affects her ability to digest food properly. She started having severe reactions to foods she'd eaten her whole life, and her condition deteriorated to the point where she could barely take care of herself. Her doctors recommended she move in with family members who could monitor her diet and help with her daily care. Since I have a large house in the suburbs and Sarah works from home as a nutritionist with her own practice, we offered to take Mom in. It seemed like the perfect solution. Sarah has extensive knowledge about dietary restrictions and autoimmune conditions, plus she's home most of the day to help Mom. Amy wasn't happy about this arrangement from the start because she felt that as the older sibling and a registered nurse, she should be the one taking care of Mom. However, she lives in a small 2-bedroom apartment with her 2 teenage kids, 14F and 16M, and works 12-hour shifts at the hospital, so it wasn't practical for Mom to live with her. Sarah has been absolutely amazing with Mom's care from day one. She completely reorganized our kitchen to prevent cross-contamination, researches recipes that Mom can digest easily, prepares all her meals separately using dedicated cooking utensils, and even started a detailed food diary to track what foods cause reactions. She also accompanies Mom to all her doctor's appointments and takes detailed notes about her condition. Mom's health had actually been improving steadily for the first 6 months she lived with us. Her episodes of stomach pain became less frequent, and she was even able to start taking short walks around the neighborhood with Sarah. Things changed about 2 months ago when Mom started having severe stomach pains and vomiting episodes again. Sarah immediately adjusted her diet and contacted her doctors, but the symptoms persisted. That's when Amy started getting more involved, but not in a helpful way. Amy began visiting more frequently after Mom's symptoms worsened. She would show up unannounced, sometimes during her hospital breaks or between shifts, claiming she wanted to check on Mom. But I started noticing a pattern. She was really watching Sarah like a hawk. She would hover in the kitchen when Sarah was preparing Mom's meals, ask pointed questions about every ingredient, and even started taking photos of medicine bottles and food packages when she thought no one was looking. Sarah tried to be patient and answer all her questions, even offering to share Mom's food diary and the research she'd done about managing the condition. Amy's behavior got increasingly aggressive. She started making snide comments about Sarah's qualifications, suggesting that being a nutritionist wasn't the same as being a real medical professional like herself. She would question every decision Sarah made about Mom's care, from the brands of supplements she bought to the times she served meals. When Sarah suggested trying a new type of protein shake recommended by Mom's doctor, Amy spent hours researching the brand online trying to find negative reviews. Last week, everything came to a head. Mom had a particularly bad episode and had to be rushed to the hospital. While we were all in the waiting room, Amy suddenly started screaming at Sarah, accusing her of deliberately contaminating Mom's food with ingredients she knew would trigger reactions. According to Amy's theory, Sarah was feeling burdened by Mom's care, despite never showing any signs of this, and was slowly poisoning her to force her into a nursing home where she wouldn't be our problem anymore. When I asked Amy what evidence she had for these outrageous accusations, she claimed that as a nurse, she had noticed patterns in Mom's symptoms that suggested deliberate food contamination. She brought up how Sarah had mentioned feeling tired during a family dinner 3 months ago, who wouldn't be tired after working and caregiving. She also referenced an incident where Sarah had forgotten to buy Mom's special bread during a grocery run, twisting it into proof that Sarah was negligent. The final straw for Amy was apparently finding an open package of wheat flour in our kitchen. Mom is severely gluten intolerant, which she claimed was proof that Sarah was secretly adding it to Mom's food. The truth is, I had bought that flour because I wanted to try baking bread during my time off after watching some cooking shows. Sarah had specifically told me to keep it in a separate cabinet away from Mom's ingredients and had even labeled the cabinet as contains gluten to prevent any mix-ups. When I defended Sarah, pointing out how she's done nothing but help Mom, Amy turned on me too. She accused me of being manipulated and blind to what was happening under my own roof. Then she dropped what she thought was her biggest piece of evidence. She claimed she had been collecting samples of Mom's food for the past month and had them tested at her hospital's lab. According to her, these tests showed traces of substances Mom was allergic to. When I demanded to see these test results, she got defensive and said she couldn't show them because she had technically done the testing unofficially. Mom was obviously distraught hearing all this. Sarah was in tears, not just from the accusations but from hearing how Amy had apparently been suspicious of her for months while pretending to be civil. I lost my temper and told Amy to leave the hospital. I told her she was no longer welcome in our house unless she apologized to Sarah and admitted she was wrong. She refused and instead threatened to report Sarah to Adult Protective Services. Looking back, there have been signs of Amy's hostility towards Sarah from the beginning of our relationship. When we first started dating 6 years ago, Amy was convinced Sarah was a gold digger because she came from a wealthy family but chose to work as a nutritionist instead of joining her family's business. She would make comments about Sarah playing at having a career while secretly planning to inherit her family's money. Even after Sarah proved herself by signing a prenup that Amy didn't know about and building her own successful practice from scratch, Amy remained cold towards her. There's also the fact that Amy never approved of anyone I dated, claiming they weren't good enough for her little brother. Before Sarah, I dated someone Amy initially liked, but as soon as things got serious, Amy found reasons to criticize her too. She's always been overprotective, but this situation with Sarah has taken it to a whole new level. I decided to cut contact with Amy until she comes to her senses. Our other family members are divided. Our cousins think I'm being too harsh and should at least hear Amy out since she has medical training and might have noticed something we missed. But our aunts and uncles agree that her accusations are ridiculous and harmful, especially since she can't provide any actual evidence. Mom is still in the hospital, and her doctors are running tests to figure out what caused the recent decline in her condition. Sarah visits her every day, despite Amy trying to convince the hospital staff not to let her in. Ida for choosing to believe my wife and cutting off my sister? Should I be taking these accusations more seriously given Amy's medical background? The whole situation feels surreal, and I can't believe my own sister would do this to our family. Update 1 first, I want to thank everyone who commented on my original post. The support and advice really helped me stay grounded during what has turned out to be the most chaotic 2 weeks of my life. There have been some major developments that I need to share. After 5 days in the hospital, Mom's test results finally came back. The doctors discovered the real reason for her declining health. She had developed new allergies to nightshade vegetables, tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, that were previously safe for her to eat. This sometimes happens with her type of autoimmune condition, where the body can suddenly start reacting to foods that were fine before. The doctors adjusted her diet plan, removing these vegetables completely, and she's already showing significant signs of improvement. When Amy found out about this, instead of apologizing for accusing Sarah, she doubled down. She claimed that Sarah, being a nutritionist, must have known about these new allergies developing but kept feeding Mom those vegetables anyway. She even went as far as to say that Sarah probably noticed Mom's initial mild reactions but continued serving these foods to make her condition worse. This made absolutely no sense because Sarah was the one who first suggested to Mom's doctors that her symptoms seemed similar to her previous food reactions and requested the allergy tests. But here's where things get really interesting, and this is what finally exposed everything. Last Friday, I ran into Monica, one of Amy's coworkers who has been a family friend for years, at the grocery store. She asked how Mom was doing and mentioned how worried she was about Amy's recent behavior at work. When I asked what she meant, Monica revealed something shocking. Amy had never actually had Mom's food tested at the hospital lab. Monica explained that such unofficial testing would be impossible due to strict protocols about lab use and sample testing. Not only that, but Amy doesn't even have access to that department. As a nurse in the cardiac unit, she would have no way to run food contamination tests. When Monica heard through hospital gossip that Amy was claiming to have done these tests, she was concerned but didn't know how to bring it up. I decided to confront Amy about this lie immediately. I drove to her apartment that evening and showed her my phone recordings of my conversation with Monica. My state allows one-party consent for recordings. At first, Amy tried to claim that Monica was lying to protect the hospital, but when I pressed her about the specific details of these supposed tests, she finally broke down. She admitted she had made up the whole testing story because she was so sure Sarah was hurting Mom and thought having evidence would make everyone believe her. This led to a huge family meeting the next day where even more truth came out. We discovered that Amy had been systematically poisoning other family members' opinions of Sarah for weeks. She had created a private group chat called Protecting Mom where she had been sharing her concerns about Sarah's care of Mom, carefully excluding me and anyone who might defend my wife. She had been sending updates about Mom's condition that exaggerated her symptoms and implied Sarah's involvement. The most disturbing discovery came when our cousin Jenny pulled me aside after the family meeting. She revealed that during one of Amy's surprise visits to check on Mom, she had actually planted a hidden camera in our living room. Jenny only knew about this because Amy had tried to get her husband, who works in security, to help her set up additional cameras. He had refused and told Jenny about it, but Jenny had been too uncomfortable to tell me until now. When confronted about the hidden camera, Amy tried to justify it by claiming she did it to protect Mom. But when we demanded to see the footage, she admitted she hadn't found anything suspicious, just hours of Sarah patiently helping Mom with her meals, medications, and daily activities. The camera has since been removed and turned over to our lawyer, as this type of surveillance is illegal in our state without consent. Sarah is understandably devastated by all of this. She's been having anxiety attacks, especially after we discovered that Amy's campaign against her had spread beyond our family. Amy had been approaching Sarah's clients at the hospital. Many of her nutrition clients are referred by doctors there, and implying that Sarah was untrustworthy. She never made direct accusations, but she would say things like I wouldn't trust my family member with her or you might want to get a second opinion. As a result, Sarah is considering taking a break from her practice. Several clients have already canceled their consultations, and a doctor who regularly referred patients to her has stopped doing so. She's worried her professional reputation has been permanently damaged by Amy's rumors. I've consulted a lawyer about possible legal action against Amy for defamation and illegal surveillance. The lawyer believes we have a strong case, especially with the hidden camera evidence and the documented lies about the hospital tests. Most family members are now firmly on our side after learning about Amy's deception, but some still think we should work things out because we're family. They keep saying things like she was just worried about Mom or her heart was in the right place. Mom is especially torn about the whole situation. While she knows Sarah is innocent and has been nothing but helpful, she hates seeing her children at odds with each other. She's been crying a lot and blaming herself, wondering if she should have just moved into a nursing home instead of living with us. Sarah and I keep reassuring her that none of this is her fault, but it's hard seeing her so distressed. I'm planning to move forward with the legal action regardless of what anyone thinks. Amy's lies and actions have nearly destroyed my wife's professional reputation and have caused serious emotional distress to our entire family. I'll post another update when there are more developments. Update 2: The situation has taken several unexpected turns that I need to share. While going through old family photos with Mom during her recovery, we stumbled upon something that has completely changed our understanding of Amy's behavior. In an old photo album from 15 years ago, we found a stack of letters and engagement party invitations that revealed a shocking connection. Amy had actually been engaged to James, Sarah's cousin. Mom confirmed the story. Apparently, Amy and James had dated for 3 years and were engaged to be married. The engagement ended abruptly when James left Amy for another woman just 2 months before their planned wedding. Amy was devastated and had to cancel everything. She took it so hard that she moved to another state for a year to recover. When she came back, she never mentioned James or what happened, and the family respected her wishes by never bringing it up. Sarah had no idea about any of this because she wasn't close to that side of her family growing up. She was away at college when all this happened, and James was the black sheep of their family who everyone avoided talking about. The few times Sarah had mentioned James in passing, Amy had never shown any reaction that would suggest their history. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Our lawyer, while investigating Amy's defamation campaign against Sarah, discovered what might have triggered Amy's recent obsessive behavior. James has recently moved back to our city with his wife, the same woman he left Amy for, and their 3 kids. He's now a successful wellness entrepreneur and is planning to work with Sarah on developing a nutrition program for his company's employees. After some digging, we found out that Amy had learned about this business connection about a week before she started intensifying her accusations against Sarah. She had seen a promotional email from Sarah's nutrition practice announcing the upcoming collaboration. The project would have been a huge opportunity for Sarah's career, but now it's on hold because of all this drama. The timing explains why Amy suddenly escalated from general hostility to active sabotage. Finding out that Sarah would be working closely with James must have triggered all her unresolved feelings about the failed engagement. Instead of dealing with those feelings, she projected all her anger and resentment onto Sarah. We tried to organize a family therapy session to work through this mess. Our Aunt Susan, who's a counselor, offered to mediate. But instead of attending, Amy sent a lengthy email to the entire family. In it, she accused me of betraying her by choosing my rich wife's family over my own blood relatives. She went on a rant about how the wealthy always protect each other, completely ignoring that she was the one who had fabricated evidence and illegally recorded people in our home. The most concerning part of her email was how she tried to rewrite history, claiming she had always known Sarah was just like James and had been trying to protect our family from more heartbreak. She even suggested that Sarah and James might be planning something behind my back, which is absolutely ridiculous since Sarah barely knows him. The hidden camera incident has had serious professional consequences for Amy. When her hospital found out she had secretly recorded people in a private residence, they launched a formal investigation. They're concerned about potential violations of patient privacy protocols. Apparently, Amy had accessed Mom's medical records at the hospital multiple times without authorization, even though she wasn't involved in Mom's care. She's been suspended pending the investigation's outcome. Some family members who were initially sympathetic to Amy have changed their minds after learning about her history with James. They now see her accusations against Sarah as part of a larger pattern of unresolved issues and misplaced revenge. However, Amy's kids are caught in the middle of all this. Her daughter told me that Amy has been obsessively watching old videos from when she was with James and crying about how her life could have been different. I feel some guilt about not remembering the James situation sooner, but I was only a teenager when it happened and Amy had been so insistent on everyone forgetting about it. Sarah feels awful too, even though none of this is her fault. She offered to withdraw from the project with James to keep the peace, but I told her she shouldn't have to sacrifice professional opportunities because of Amy's issues. Mom is doing much better health-wise, but this revelation about Amy and James has her questioning everything. She keeps asking if she should have forced Amy to get counseling after the broken engagement instead of letting her pretend it never happened. I'll update again once the hospital investigation is complete. For now, we're maintaining no contact with Amy and focusing on helping Sarah rebuild her professional reputation. Update 3: The situation has finally reached its conclusion, though in a way none of us expected. The hospital completed their investigation of Amy last week, and the results were damning. They discovered that beyond accessing Mom's records without authorization, she had been using her position to look up medical information about Sarah's clients. This was a major HIPAA violation. The hospital terminated her employment immediately and reported her to the state nursing board. This triggered what I can only describe as a complete meltdown. Amy showed up at our house at 3 a.m. on a Tuesday, clearly drunk, demanding to speak to Mom. When we refused to let her in, she started screaming in our driveway about how everything was Sarah's fault. She claims Sarah had orchestrated her firing by telling lies to the hospital administration, even though Sarah had nothing to do with the investigation. The noise woke up our neighbors, and one of them called the police. Before they arrived, Amy started throwing rocks at our windows and threatening to expose us on social media. We got the whole incident on our security cameras. She only left when she heard police sirens approaching. True to her threat, Amy spent the next day creating multiple social media posts accusing Sarah of elder abuse, professional fraud, and having an affair with James. She even posted edited screenshots of text messages to make it look like Sarah was admitting to wrongdoing. Our lawyer immediately sent her a cease and desist letter, warning her about defamation charges. She deleted the posts, but by then, screenshots had already circulated in our local community. But that wasn't the end of it. We discovered she had been sending anonymous emails to Sarah's clients and professional contacts. These emails included wild accusations about Sarah's qualifications and character, alongside the same edited screenshots from social media. Some of these emails even contained thinly veiled threats about making sure the truth comes out. This was the final straw. We've filed for a restraining order and are proceeding with legal action for defamation, harassment, and emotional distress. The evidence is overwhelming. We have the security footage, the social media posts, the anonymous emails traced to her IP address, and testimony from her former hospital colleagues about her obsessive behavior. Mom made the difficult decision to move into a senior living community nearby. Despite our assurances that she's welcome to stay, she feels this is the best way to maintain her independence and keep peace in the family. She's actually doing well there. They have staff trained in managing dietary restrictions, and she's made friends with other residents. The fallout within the family has been severe. Most relatives have cut contact with Amy, especially after seeing the security footage of her drunken rampage. Her ex-husband filed for full custody of their kids after the incident at our house, and the judge granted it. Her kids are now living with him full-time and are in therapy to deal with everything that's happened. Amy has moved to another state to live with a distant cousin. Last we heard, she's trying to get her nursing license transferred, though that might be difficult given the pending investigation by the nursing board. She sent one final email before leaving, not to apologize, but to blame everyone else for ruining her life. Sarah's business is slowly recovering. The incident actually led to some positive changes. She's expanded into virtual consultations and is working with a larger medical practice now, which has helped rebuild her client base. The project with James's company is moving forward, and he's been surprisingly understanding about the whole situation. Looking back, I realize that cutting toxic people out of your life is sometimes the only solution, even if they're family. Amy's issues with James clearly ran deeper than any of us realized, but that doesn't excuse her attempts to destroy Sarah's life and reputation. Sometimes the hardest decisions are the right ones, and I don't regret choosing to protect my wife and our life together.